Welcome to the hands-on session on keyword arguments. In the last video, we have seen what positional arguments are and how default arguments can be used in Python to skip passing certain arguments while calling the functions. In this video, we'll see what keyword arguments are and how they are helpful to jumble the order of arguments to be passed in the function calls. So consider this function fun, which takes three parameters: the student number, student name and marks. And now let's try to call this function. So when I call this function fun, I need to pass all the three arguments because they're all the positional arguments. So I am passing 101 as a student number, Ram as a student name and 89 for marks. Now let's run this code and check the output. So you can see, so the function executes without any problem. Here the program length is very short, so I am able to remember the order of the parameters. So I remember here first argument is the student number, whereas second argument refers to the name of the student, the third argument refers to the marks. So because the size of the code is very short, I could remember. Say for example, there are thousands of lines of code in my program and I don't remember the order in which I need to pass the arguments, and so by mistake I send the arguments in the wrong order. Say for example, here I pass the student name, then the student number and 89 for marks. So now let's execute this code and let's see what happens. Program of course executes without any issue, but the output you are getting is what you did not expect. So here the roll number of the student is Ram, so which is not correct, and similarly name of the student is 101, so which is again incorrect. Here the problem we observed is, so the order in which you are sending the arguments must be in the same order in whichever order they are defined in the function definition. So like here first argument should be student number, then second argument must be referring to name of the student, and the last argument must be student marks. So in that order alone you can send the marks. So is there any way to violate this order of sending the arguments? Say for example, I would like to alter the order in which I am sending the arguments, or otherwise is there any way to change the order in which I am sending the arguments? So keyword arguments is the concept which allows you to do that. So let's see what keyword arguments are. We call these arguments as keyword arguments as every argument you are passing is a pair of value and keyword. Say for example, here the first argument I am passing is the student number and 101, and second argument is so name and name of the student, whereas the third argument is marks equal to 89. So here if you observe this function call, so I am passing every argument as a pair of values, where the first value refers to the parameter name itself. Here if you observe student number, name and marks, these are the parameters we used while defining the function, and these parameter names can be used along with the argument names, so it forms a keyword and the value pair. So student number equal to 101, name equal to Ram and marks equal to 89. So every argument that I am passing is a pair of a keyword and a value. So here these kind of argument passing is known as a keyword argument. The reason is we are using the keyword along with the argument. So that is how these arguments are known as the keyword arguments. Now let's execute this code and see. Here there is no issue at all and you are able to execute the code without any issue. But here you are not getting any benefit out of it. So we are not actually shuffling the order of the arguments. So here if you observe, while defining the function fun, so there are three parameters and the order of the parameters is student number, name and marks. But while calling the function, so I need not to obey the same order when I use the keyword arguments. So if you observe, I am passing name as a first argument, but this is valid only when I am using the keyword arguments. So that is, whenever I associate every argument with a keyword, so then only it is valid. For example, here I am passing name equal to Ram. So that indicates that for the parameter name, I am assigning the value Ram. In this case, whenever we are using the keyword arguments, Python does not care about the order in which the arguments are passed to the function. Say for example here, so name is a parameter, so which is a second parameter actually, so and it is assigning a value Ram. And similarly student number is a other argument and to which you are assigning a value 101, and similarly marks is another parameter to which you are assigning a value 89. So now let's execute this code and check the output. Here you can observe, even after changing the order of the arguments you are passing also, the function executes without any issue. So on checking the output, you can observe that the roll number of the student is 101, name of the student is Ram, so marks of the student is 89. So where the arguments are correctly passed even after jumbling the arguments in the function calls. So that is how the keyword arguments can be used to shuffle the order in which the arguments can be passed to a function call. So now let's consider another case where I am passing marks as a first argument. So now if you observe, so marks is passed as first argument, so name is passed as second argument, student number is passed as a third argument. So the order in which the arguments are passed is not at all a problem whenever the arguments are passed are the keyword arguments. So now you can execute the code. So you can observe there is no issue at all. So whenever the arguments that you are passing are the keyword arguments, in that case, so you need not to bother about the order in which you are sharing the arguments in the function call. So remember, keyword is nothing but the name of the parameter that is used. That is how keyword arguments can be used to jumble the order in which the arguments can be passed to a function call. Now I hope you understand what keywords arguments are and how they can be useful in function calls. Now let's see how a combination of positional arguments and the keyword arguments can be used. It is possible to mix the positional arguments with the keyword arguments. Now let's see how they can be combined and used in a function call. So consider this example. So here if you observe, the first parameter is passed as the positional argument, whereas the remaining are passed as the keyword arguments. So that is how it is valid to combine the positional arguments with the keyword arguments. So now let's execute this code and see. So if you observe, first the value whatever you are passing as positional argument, so they will be passed to the parameters, and the remaining anyhow you are passing them as the keyword arguments, and in whichever order you can pass them as the keyword arguments. But you should be careful while combining these positional arguments with the keyword arguments. So here if you observe, whenever there are keyword arguments, so the keyword arguments must be towards the end only. So you cannot place the keyword arguments first and you cannot place the positional arguments later. So consider this example where the positional arguments are followed by the keyword arguments, which is actually invalid. So now let's execute this code and see. So if you observe, Python raises a syntax error saying that positional argument follows the keyword argument, which is actually not valid. So that is how always when you use a combination of positional and the keyword arguments, the keyword arguments must be followed by the positional arguments. So then only it is valid. So now this is valid because the keyword arguments are followed by the positional arguments. That is how it is valid. Now you can execute this code and see. So of course it executes without any issue as the keyword arguments are following the positional arguments. Now I hope you understand what keyword arguments are and how these keyword arguments are helpful to jumble the order in which the arguments are passed to a function call. And moreover, how a combination of positional arguments can be used with the keyword arguments. In the next video, we'll see what variable length arguments are and how they are helpful to pass unknown number of arguments to the function. Thank you for watching this video.